Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the Shadow and Sun Show, and welcome back to another one-on-one. This time I've got with me the one, the only, the Crafting Gamer. How you doing today?
I'm hearing an echo.
Really?
I think it might be my end, though.
I'm not hearing it.
Yeah, it's on my end.
I wouldn't worry too much about it. If people in the chat here, we can remedy that. So how you doing
Let me
today?
take off my headphones.
People in the chat here, we can remedy that. Oh yeah, that's on your end, man.
Yeah, I'm still hearing an echo. That's annoying.
Check your settings and your volume, and drop your volume down to like 30.
My phone. Okay.
Do you have another device on? Howdy, folks. Bear with us. You know what? Pop out and pop back in. Make sure you only have one device on.
Okay.
Howdy, folks. Rustling You Here is my next project, which is a Gundam model. I'll be doing a craft off with Bo from Bo Paints Minis. We're each going to take a Gundam model kit and do something to it that's out of the ordinary. Let's just put it that way. The one I'm working on is the Wing Gundam Zero. There he is again. And welcome to the show again, TCG. Howdy, Six Nations. Howdy, Holy Diver. We doing better now?
Yeah, I forgot I used the link through the YouTube, and I left that one unmuted. So I was hearing YouTube and you.
That's what I figured was going on. I used to do that all the time, as the folks in the chat will attest. But yes, Six Nations. I'm not really doing so much of a kit bash. I'm going to be honest. I'm just doing a paint job that's going to make it very different. I don't know what Bo's going to do. Probably a kit bash, but he's got to get a bunch of other projects out of the way. Again, Holy Diver, that was a great show yesterday. You had me rolling on the floor within the first minute. And yes, I'm going to have to grab one of those shirts. Speaking of shirts, I got the old Hungar, the Starvarian shirt on today. And yes, I put this on before James's show just to show some love for a good friend of ours. So, TCG, what's happening? How you doing today?
Doing pretty good. Ended up being a little behind on one of my videos, so I'm a little grumpy about that. But other than that,
you know what? The only schedule you got to keep is your own, so don't worry about it. I'm going to ask you a couple of the usual questions I always ask folks when they come on the show, and the first one is, tell us a little bit about yourself. I know that's not really a question, but what would you like the people out there in TV land to know about you? Hey, Shadow Spawn, great name. Welcome to the show.
Well, I'm not very personal. It's just the fact I also have a bad habit of going overboard. So let me know if I start diarrhea of the mouth.
No. It's all about you, man.
Okay. Well,
just let the people know what you'd like them to know about you.
I do mostly, well, at this moment, I'm doing Robotech videos, but I wanted to expand to other games. But I also intend to do crafting videos, which I have to find time for. And then to add even more to my plate, I decided to create my own RPG book, which I'm going to start doing live streams on, talking about my adventures as being a creator and talking to other people who create books, or like you and I think at one point you said you create models besides just like the homemade ones you actually professionally create.
Yes.
I'd have a lot of different creators, because I believe that books are not life and death connected, but connected to the art that goes in them. So I want
I totally agree.
all angles for bookmakers, not just like the bookmaker, but the art they put into it, the people who make the art for them. I'm really looking forward to that because I would have done one yesterday, but then I realized I didn't have a subject. So I was like, dead air. But then afterwards, I realized what this could be.
That is the bane of our existence. Nobody likes dead air. It's just not a good look and definitely not a good sound.
No. But yeah, I'm hoping to have, like, I got to get a hold of Victor this week because next Thursday I'm hoping to have Victor as my first episode of that and my first guest.
Good for you. Yeah, you know, that's why I do this is to help out people who I see, you know, potential in, you know, even if they've been doing it for a long time, you know, we all got to get our start somewhere. And so many great people, James, Max, and Bruce, all did the same. Of course, obviously, Biggest Geek is they saw what my son and I were doing, and they were, you know, they liked what we were doing, and they knew we had the potential to, you know, to keep at it. And I see the same with you and the other folks we've had on here, you know, RPG Grandma, of course, Squirrel Hermit, Mr. Max, you know, the list goes on.
Oh yeah.
You know, we've got to pay it forward, and we've got to, you know, keep our I call it our circle ever expanding, kind of like chainmail. You know, I'm one link, but I got, you know, I'm connected to 5 other links, and those links are connected to other links, and each one of those links is another person. And until we, you know, cover the world with our, you know, our love of this hobby. How's it going, Sean? Welcome to the show. My next question is, how did you get into this hobby?
Well, we'll go all the way back to the beginning, because I wasn't actually in the hobby when I first discovered it, which was through, I forgot what they're called. I think it's called Adventure Books, like what Geek does every Friday.
Choose Your Own Adventure? Like Choose Your Own Adventure? Yeah, I got a bunch of those still. They're wonderful books.
Oh, yeah. At about 8 years old, still not able to read because I do have a reading disability. I actually found one of those books. And through sheer imagination, because I was told, oh, it's a Choose Your Own Adventure book. Okay, so I just pretended I knew what the adventure was about, pretended I knew what the words were, and made up my own adventure through that book more than once. And then years later, like when I was 14, a buddy of mine heard me, because at that point I had a lot of practice just making up stories. I was like, oh, we got a few minutes to wait before the bus gets here. Here's a story to tell. And he's like, dude, you make an excellent DM. I'm like, what's a DM? He's like, you kidding me, right? I'm like, no. He's like, a DM makes stories to tell in, I'm a slow reader, to tell in these different adventures and books. And he brings home a very first book, which probably would make Heathen Dog cringe, but the very first Palladium book I ever got my hands on was the Conversions book. So it's all mega damage.
Oh, that's funny. That is so funny. I've got it. I'm a big Palladium fan myself. I weaned myself off of Dungeons and Dragons AD&D with Palladium. I mean, I was playing Traveler and Villains and Vigilantes and stuff like that. But when I got the Rifts book, it just transformed all of our games because, you know, we were combat monsters, not going to lie. You know, we saw the combat tables and went, what? I can get X number of attacks versus the 1 or 2 or 3 or 4, you know, and then we could throw a haste spell and double that, you know, and they just went nuts. And you know, we enjoyed it. It's still a good system, if not a great system. Not everybody's cup of tea, but what is it you like about Palladium's system?
Well, when at first, because it was the only game I knew. At that particular moment, I still wasn't a strong reader, so the DM who taught me, long story short, we're not friends anymore because he took advantage of my inability to read and told me everything that he thought should be in the book. When I learned to read, it was like 50% wrong compared to what the book said. But
wow, that's not cool.
But no, it's not. But when I started to learn to read, my library at my local school didn't have physical copies, but they had access to digital copies of different RPGs. And when I started
Okay.
reading those, and I was like, this doesn't make any sense. But then I turn around and go back to Palladium, and it's like, even with the like 50% wrong on everything, it still made more sense to me than any other RPG I have attempted to read thus far.
Gotcha. Is it
It
the
just clicks.
Gonzo-ness? Is it the Gonzo-ness that you like most, or is it the mechanics of the the cinematic approach, or is it the lore or the
Well, every book so far I have not read bad. Well, no, I have read bad lore in a couple of books, but most time there is no bad lore. It's in the Palladium's case, I definitely like the Gonzo-ness. I am a Gonzo storyteller. I'm definitely one of those that if you don't keep a check on as a player, I'll eventually throw in the kitchen sink and then probably something else. But
you definitely need to pick up some Arduin just for a perspective of where Gonzo got started, and then as soon as you can, grab any of Venger Satanis's books. You will love them, but you got to kind of read Arduin first, in my opinion.
yeah,
It makes it better. Because if you were to read Venger's books first, sorry, Venger, just going chronologically. Then you can appreciate his stuff a little bit more, as opposed to then looking at Arduin and going, oh, it's just like this. Well, one came before the other, and the whole idea of Gonzo really started with David A. Hargrave back in the 70s. And if it wasn't for him, we'd still be playing, a certain way, I think.
yeah.
And what was this? There's no bad lore in the Star Trek RPG. You're playing lore. Oh God. Oh God, I hate that I got that. Sean, you're killing me, man. But you are on fire today, so cheers and welcome to the show. So, what's your favorite Palladium system? Is it Robotech that being your main jam, or have you branched off?
Actually, I never played Robotech.
Oh,
Nobody.
okay.
I really. I've part of the reason why I covered it first was because it's a three-part thing. One, Legion of Myth was not covering it because I was trying. I'm not saying like, oh, I'm going to do anything Legion of Myth doesn't do, but they weren't covering it at the time,
Right.
which is like, okay,
Totally
I don't want to cover this. Yeah. Part two is because I always did want to play it, never got the opportunity. I figured this would be an opportunity to learn it a little bit better. And I left a poll online for Robotech, TMNT, Palladium Fantasy, and Heroes Unlimited as my first books to cover, and Robotech got picked out.
Fair enough. I did run. Well, I used Palladium's Robotech books, but I use it for my sci-fi games because I do run a galaxy or a multiverse, I should say, really, where magic and psionics and technology and all that stuff, they all work together. Not always the same way on every planet. Each planet's got its own, biosphere of what works and what doesn't. Sometimes psionics don't work. Sometimes magic works
Yeah.
at 200%. And Traveler was great for a more hard sci-fi game, which we really liked, and we used the skill system for a good long time because in other games there wasn't as good a skill system. But I wanted something that I could integrate the magic that I liked and the psionics and the skills and all that good stuff all into one thing. I tried working with GURPS, but I couldn't get anybody on board for some reason. Mind you, this was way back in the early '80s when it first came out, and my friends were pretty cut and dry. They just wanted to play D&D, and I'm like, okay, well, maybe later. And eventually, a lot of them got into the other genres, but in the beginning, it was really hard. And to this day, I still don't get how there are so many fantasy fans as opposed to science fiction fans when science fiction is so much closer to our real world. Especially I'm 56, and I can remember when artificial limbs and the internet and things like that were just dreams of the future. And now we're seeing that stuff. And it's only been a short part of my generation to see it, come into fruition, artificial intelligence and all these other things that were just, science fiction. And now they're almost science fact. And, give us another generation who knows where we'll be. So it's weird for me that people aren't more into it, especially with, as well as like superhero movies appeal to everybody. And that's got magic, it's got psionics, it's got robots, it's got androids and spaceships and power armor. But people don't want to play in those kind of games, it seems. You ever notice that?
Yeah, I do. When I was during most of my DMing experience, I DM'd for a primary group of 6 and somewhere between 20 and 25 individual player groups. And almost all the time, all they wanted to play was fantasy. My primary group was the only group I could get to play anything besides fantasy, but they were also a flighty group that would like play 3 or 4 sessions for a single adventure, and then be like, okay, we're bored with this, let's move on. So I've played almost all the Palladium systems because of it, because they just couldn't sit on one they liked.
Mm-hmm.
But in general, like I said, I was saying in general, the groups that I played a lot, that I played individually, like 3 or 4 sessions at the most, like a introductory campaign, almost always was fantasy because that's what they wanted.
I just don't get that. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm in an AD&D game right now, but I'm also in a Traveler game and a GURPS Starship Troopers sort of game with Bo from Bo Payne's Minis, and I've yet to come across a game that's like the games I play. But I play Gonzo. I like the full mix, and online I don't think there's that many people I know that are like craving that sort of thing. Sort of a Marvel Comics in space kind of game. Basically, is the only way I can sum it up real quickly. Are you running any games right now?
No, I'm currently in a group playing as a player, which I'm hoping to get some time to DM so I can play test the book I'm working on. But other than that, most people that I have a chance to play with have decided I'm not their DM.
Okay.
Though I do have a very slight funny, well, it's actually a pretty funny story from back when I was DMing for 3 or 4 times for lots of different groups. I'm pretty confident there is a collection of Palladium books somewhere in Arabia because of me. I was asked by a friend at the time to DM for his uncle and his wife and her brother. Like, okay, that's not a problem. Oh, and of course him. All 4 of them. It's like, okay, a 4-player group for a couple of sessions. That's fine. They get there. I see, okay, he's even for where I live, because you're rich or you're poor here. Even for him, he's really well dressed. Like, he obviously has a lot of money. Right behind him, I watched this 5'0" Arab woman walk in, and then her at least 5'8" brother walks in right behind her. I'm like, interesting. Where this ends up being the funny part is the fact that the brother starts getting mad at me because I started a Arabian campaign. He's not doing cultural appropriation shit. He's doing, I live there. Can I see something else, please?
Okay. Sean's got a question for you.
Yeah.
Is Robotech your favorite RPG?
I'd have to say no, but only because I haven't played it. I'm working on it as the book, but I won't say I like or dislike something until I've actually had a chance to play it, even if it's in the Palladium system. Because I've learned from all the different ones I've played, every system is a little bit different.
See that I'm not quite there. I will bag on a system if I've read it. All I got to do is read it. I've been doing this for 45 years now. 45 years now, and I've gotten to the point where I can read a book, and I've read 3 books lately in the last year that I literally want to light on fire because I don't want anybody else to ever have to or be tempted to read it and play it, and then lose a little bit of their soul and a huge chunk of their time. But no, that's not racism.
Yeah, I only have about a decade's worth of experience under my belt, so.
Well, you seem to have absorbed a good portion of it. At least the spirit of what the hobby is meant to be. So many people look at it, in ways that most of us don't quite agree with or enjoy. Because it is meant to be enjoyed, but it's not. It's not a soapbox. It's it's a hobby, and as Bo says, make it your own. I totally love his three commandments, as it were. Making it my own has been number one, mostly because I've been the eternal GM for so long that I almost forgot what it was like to actually play until this last year. Speaking of gaming, you're supposed to be GMing for the guys over on Table Breakers. Any spoilers
Yes.
you wanna or you wanna let loose now
Oh,
before you
sure.
actually get to do that? I'm really curious because I'm going to be running a game next week, and I got a lot of work to do to run it on Table Breakers. It's going to be a traveler game, but I'm curious to see what you got in store for us.
Well, I've already determined that this is going to be I'm going to try to do as roundabout for the rules. Not a roundabout, as around the rules as possible in the. Because I have hand-to-hand combat rules, I have ranged combat rules, I have magic combat rules, I also have ship combat rules, which are different and yet similar to the combat rules, which will make things hopefully slide over. But, well, like for example, in my ship combat, you actually get we'll start with hand-to-hand combat. Unlike a lot of systems, you get a set amount of attacks. They don't go up unless you use special circumstances, which make them temporary. And in ships, you get the pilot, just the pilot, gets twice as many actions for maneuvering. Because you have to, since you're in sky, you have to maneuver get your shot on your opponent.
Right.
Which maneuvering can actually lead to a critical, even if the person does not roll a critical. Like if you manage to get behind the ship and shoot directly into the back end of it, you'll actually do extra damage.
Yep. Or, if you, like me, you know where to hit certain vehicles.
Oh, yeah.
I don't need to go into that. If you know where to hit, a Soviet vehicle, and you hit it, that's a critical. Sorry. Me personally, I've always had this notion when it came to criticals that just because you roll a 20 does not mean it's a critical. How many times have you guys rolled a critical and then go to roll damage and you roll a 1?
Yeah.
Okay, and with all your pluses, it's still the lowest amount of damage you could roll for your own character, let's say, and that's supposed to be a critical. Now, mind you, 1 point of damage can take out an eye on the right creature. Okay, for me, it was always about okay, you rolled a hit, but then you rolled maximum damage on the dice, especially if it was like multiple dice. And then to me, that seems like more of a critical. Although I prefer combat that uses hit locations, because that you hit a guy in the shoulder, it's real hard to get a critical there. It's really hard. You got to go through the entire shoulder. You've got to get down into the bone and the joint and all that before it's going to not just be shrugged off. Any guy who's worked out, enough, you're not getting through that with punches. You're not. You're just, unless you're the Hulk against, Tony Stark, and you hit him in the shoulder, that's not a critical. You've got to break things. You've got to, and if your damage does not, reflect that, then it's not really a critical, is it? You know, how did you get through,
Yeah.
you know, all that muscle and everything else to call it a critical? Just because the die roll chart said so? Yeah, I always kind of hated that. Welcome to the show,
Yeah.
Mobius.
The concept I'm using for criticals isn't like you got a great shot. It's more like you managed to put a little extra strength behind it, so you quote unquote do double damage. But the concept is more or less of where you hit and how like you got lucky and managed to make a good strike. Because I have to agree with you.
Lucky,
That whole
that's what you aimed for. You know, any good sniper will tell you, you know,
oh yeah,
if I'm aiming for your head and I hit your head, that's a critical. Sorry. You know, I don't need to roll a 20. Did I hit you in the head? That's a critical. You know, so I mean, especially with weapons of any sort. Human beings are so fragile. The whole concept of, you know, double and triple digit hit points to me has always just been pretty ludicrous. You know,
oh yeah,
what was it? Mutant Chronicles was one of the first game systems I ever saw with a hit location system. And you rolled up your hit points, but then divided them by the 10 locations that they use. So you could roll D10, okay, 10's a head, okay? So if you had 100 hit points, your head had 10 hit points. I mean, that's a meathead, but okay. And if you deplete all 10 hit points in the head, they're just dead. You know, you deplete all, you know, 10 hit points in their thigh. Well, their thigh is removed from their body, and the lower leg is also, it's over there. It's got all 10 hit points, but that don't matter anymore because you blew off his leg. I like combat like that, having seen enough of it in real life. I know that there are very few game systems that do anything other than make it incredibly gamey, and that's okay, you know, in certain types of games. But you know, if you've ever played things like Top Secret or you know, more realistic games like that, it's just not the way it is. You know, that how do they put it? That whack-a-mole thing. You know, at one hit point you're still standing, and at zero you're down on the ground, but you get one back and you're back up. That's never been the way it's ever been in any part of all of creation. It just doesn't work that way.
No, and I'm actually trying to aim for a slightly. You have, well, in the healing, you have one whack-a-mole, and that's it. You can have your health brought from, you can have your health brought from 0 to full once in every 4 hours. It's not even per combat; it's every 4 hours. Because if you cast this healing spell outside of combat, it takes 4 hours to heal the wounds. So it is. You don't get many chances in this game. And I kind of like what you just described for a hit location, too. Because I'm trying to make this.
Wasn't my idea.
It
wasn't my idea. Yeah. You know, head is 10, you know, and then you've got 3 in the torso, arm, upper leg, lower leg. And I think that adds up to 10. And you just roll a D10. There's some dice out there that actually, you know, tell you where you hit. But I don't like the random, you know, roll to see where you hit. Well, his legs are behind a trash can, and I'm aiming for his head. You know what I mean? Okay, maybe the head's harder to hit, but you know what? Center mass, you know, which is, you know, easier to hit. Not that you should get a +2 hit center mass, especially if the target's moving. But you know, if you hit somebody in the chest and you do, you know, all of the damage that you've assigned to that location of the chest, you know, let's just say it's you miss the heart. You know, it's not the heart, but it's the, you know, right part of the, you know, upper torso. Well, they're going to have a hard ass time breathing, and stuff's going to be shutting down. You know, I mean, if you cut somebody's hand off, only one guy in 100 is going to still keep fighting. He's going to be screaming his head off, going, oh my God, my hand, and everything else is just going to disappear except the pain and the realization and the trauma and the shock. You know, it's not like in the movies, oh, I'll just tuck my arm under here and keep swinging. No, it's not how that works. You will bleed out in a matter of, you know, a minute or two, and before that, you're going to be on the ground bleeding out.
The only time I ever...
Yeah.
That was the only time I ever seen a movie that I believed someone getting their hand cut off was the reaction they do was from Highlander when the really old man gets his hand chopped off by an axe and his first reaction is just to stab somebody. Yeah, like that is the most reaction outside of, oh my God, you're going to get from somebody who just had their hand cut off in battle. I totally agree.
Well said, Sean.
I have a question for you.
Go for it, man.
I'm thinking about making the magic system in there very Mage the Ascension, but it has a lot of, like Mage the Ascension has a lot of caveats, just not the same ones.
Mm-hmm.
If I were to get, say your character had fire, destruction, or red, and we'll say purple, ice, and permanent, how would you combine those to create some sort of spell?
I'd have to see like the mechanics of the spell, like the range, the duration, the damage.
Well, like Mage the Ascension, that is actually determined by the combination of the player and the DM.
Okay, see, I've never played that game. One thing I can recommend is a book called actually it's two books. I think it starts with The Changeling by Roger Zelazny, where he have you ever read any Roger Zelazny?
Probably not.
Okay.
Well, actually, no, I can almost guarantee not, because the only books I've really ever read are game books.
Okay. He was an old friend of mine way back when I was just getting into this, and he's a famous writer. He passed away a ways back and taken from this earth way too soon. But he was probably, as far as I know, the original guy who did what was like called essentially like spell weaving, where you would pull the magic and you know that's why they did the stuff with their fingers, and that you were pulling parts from the air, you know, that only the wizard could see, and you know, basically like, you know, crocheting the energies together. You know, this color is for, you know, range, and this color is for damage, and this color is for fire, and weaving them together, and then, you know, shooting them back out at the universe once they were woven together. And it might give you a little spark of idea how to, you know, do just that, you know, pull the different aspects from reality together and then tie them up in a, you know, nice pretty bow and shoot them back out at the universe. You know, thanks, Grandma. Thanks, Grandma. He does that also in his Amber books, but less so in the descriptive form. But, you know, I would look at it literally like that is, you know, what things are you pulling out of the aether or whatever you want to call it, you know, and how are you going to tie it all together? And then obviously there's something, you know, since, you know, only the wizards can see it, obviously when you pull it together and you make a fireball, the whole world can now see the fireball. They didn't see what you were pulling together, what strings off the fabric of creation you were pulling, you know, together and making them meet at this point and then pushing them outward. I would maybe think like, you know, how do I want to work the mechanics of all the different elements of, you know, let's just say creation. Okay, you know, you got your matter, your energy, your thought, you know, all that stuff, and everything has a little bit of you know, there's like a strand of it, you know, from, you know, to make a cat, you've got to take a certain amount of matter, a certain amount of energy, a certain amount of thought, and, you know, maybe the elements of color and form and movement and things like that, and how much of each one are you going to pull together and fashion into whatever it is you're creating it, whether it be a cat or a lightning bolt. If you can sort of, you know, disassemble the universe, you know, in game terms, you know, and how much, you know, knowledge must the magic user need to have of these things? Because I mean, the average person would never be able to learn all of the fibers of creation, but they could maybe specialize and learn certain things, and that would be part of their endeavor to learn more. Is, well, I've never learned how to make ice, so I got to go over here and study. I need to study water more and temperature and blah blah blah. And now that I know all these things about ice, I can then incorporate those facets into a new spell. Maybe I could make a flaming ice ball or something like that, because I now know these two kinds of spheres of influence, and I can then, try to mix them together. Obviously, it would make for a lot of crazy, mistakes and accidents when trying, your first attempt to harness the forces of creation together and bend them to your will. But that's what sorcery is, isn't it? You're I mean, depending on how you look at it. I know some people, in more modern game systems have tried to make sorcery more about, I guess like a demonic or uh, under the dominion of a certain kind of power that gives you that kind of magic, whereas it's
That
all
just feels like
part
cheating.
of, right. I'm not going to say that it's not, demonic or anything like that, because, all magic, if you go back, to the beginnings of it being talked about, is basically, trying to rewrite, the creator's intentions and learning how he did it, and then going, well, now I know how God did this, I'm going to do it too. And clearly that's not meant to be, but yet it's a thing that can actually happen, supposedly. So there are going to be people out there that say, screw it, I'm doing this because I want to do this. And, I'm trying not to get religious at all, but in a game sense, there are different systems. There's a lot of games out there where if you mess with magic at all, you're doomed. You're just, some Cthulhu thing is going to eventually come and eat your soul, and, that's what you get.
Oh,
Other games
oh well.
like D&D, it's like, it's just another science.
Yeah. Well, you got to be careful in Magic in my game, because there are actually technically two forms of magic. There is what I call refractions, because everything is the aspect of a sun. And then there is actual magic, which you do have to make a deal with an entity for, but you will slowly be driven crazy. Because real magic isn't meant to be in that world. It's supposed to be refractions. Humans in that world have never been exposed to magic, so they go crazy when they get exposed to it.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, it's funny, real quick, Grandma, absolutely make it a date whenever you want to do it. I'm there. I may not be as educated as you are on some things, but I'll give it my best go. To me, it's always been funny that in a world where, you take your basic D&D world and there are wizards. To me, it seems like it would only be a few generations before there would literally be those dumbass magic shops everywhere, because everybody would learn it. Even in D&D, when you only needed a certain amount of intelligence to be able to cast certain level spells on up, the higher intelligence, the more levels you could learn. Well, okay, so I can only learn first and second level spells because I'm an idiot. Well, I'm still going to learn first and second level spells, because look what you can do. I mean, every teenage boy would know invisibility. You know what I'm saying? Okay, it's real. It's real. It works. And if you do step A, step B, step C, alakazam, you're invisible. Everybody would it would be like today, brushing your teeth. Everybody does it. You could go down to the store for 99 cents and grab a toothbrush and toothpaste, and boom, you got, you're brushing your teeth every day because it's just a thing. It's that simple. And yet, I realized that there would be those evil bastards or those selfish bastards who would guard it, like, it was the most precious thing on earth, but yet that only worked here on earth for a while. You know what I mean? We guarded science and reading and learning. There were those guys who tried to hold it back, but the masses outnumbered those people, and eventually everybody learned how to read. Everybody learned how to drive a car. Most people understand electricity now and plumbing and things like that that only the big brains back in the old days knew. How many generations could you hold back magic before it was everywhere? And everywhere you went, even your dog, it could cast a spell. You know what I mean? It would just
Yeah.
be, it's going to snowball. You really have to, it's just like the effort you have to put into a world to keep it in a medieval feudalistic society, without people going, hey, we want the right to vote. Oh no, we don't want that. None of that here. No, thank you. We're happy being peasants and serfs and what have you. It doesn't last. You can't. I mean, maybe with magic you could, keep the people dumb. But then you're gonna have, evil wizard towers, on every horizon because they're the people in charge, not the kings and queens. It's going to be the evil wizards, or maybe even the neutralish wizards, whatever. You get my point that
Yeah.
electricity, that's evil talk. Well, I mean, Grandma, with this one, I don't know 5e well enough to comment on this, but it occurred to me way back in the day that eventually magic is either going to, it's either going to become rather commonplace, or technology will not be hindered whatsoever. People say, well, why would you invent this if you've got magic? Well, if the DM's being a jackass and not letting anybody have magic, then they're going to make better door hinges and doorknobs because that's all they got to work with. Necessity being the mother of invention. Eventually, you're going to get one or the other, and chances are, in a world that doesn't, go through, nuclear holocaust and world wars, you're going to get those two coming together at some point where magic is going to be at its height and technology is going to be at its height. And next thing you know, you're freaking playing Arduin or Gonzo, and that's what I'm looking for. I'm tired of the people just trying to keep that fantasy thing alive, where there's the kings and the queens and the peasants, and everybody's the unwashed masses, for the sake of the illusion that that's what a fantasy game needs. I run fantasy games. My main fantasy world has progressed to where it's pretty much almost the Industrial Revolution. It's still mostly a Western game, with a lot of those tropes, just because I'm obviously a fan. But I can only hold that back so long before even that's going to pave its way to an incredible industrial revolution across my D&D planet that even I know I can't hold it back. How would you run your D&D world? Would you keep it the traditional, or would you move towards something else?
Probably move towards something else, because like you, I feel like unlike Max from Legion of Myth, I personally feel no matter how much magic you put in a world, humans get bored when they're idle and will make things. Eventually, you will have a steam engine in a magic world. It may be magic powered, but you'll eventually have it, just because humans get bored. So I can't really see a world, no matter how magical it is, being stagnant. I can't.
Exactly. I get it, Six Nations, where you want to keep that thing. But what I would recommend doing, if that's what you want, is starting out, early in the planet's history. Okay. And if the players, I mean, you could play 10 generations of a campaign, 10 literal, family members, father, to great grandkids on down the line, but and keep that in intact. But after a certain point, you can't, and early on you've got to put in obstacles in place to keep it that way. You literally, even Tolkien did that. Most people don't realize, but from my recollection and my understanding, Sauron was using cannons and explosives that were not magic, because otherwise he would have just went. But no, he had other things to make things blow up. And when you learn to make things blow up, you also learn how to make things like steam engines and pressure cookers and all kinds of other things that I think Tolkien was trying to show that some part of Sauron's evil was technology and, moving forward. And Middle Earth was, only so many generations of being just like regular Earth with cars and telephones and things like that because of the work of men and big brains, I guess. You guys can correct me if I'm wrong. Okay, I'm not convinced that the makers of 5e considered the world building impact of how prominent magic is. Someone with the unlimited mending cantrip, for instance, would destroy certain trades. Oh yeah, exactly. That's part of my point. If you've got, it requires a certain amount of, like I said, obstacles and speed bumps to keep your world pristine and the way you want it. And if that's what you want, then by all means, don't have players come into it, because that's the first thing they're going to do. They're going to, the whole game is around improvement, whether it be yourself or your situation or the place you live. You're always trying to improve your surroundings. You've got to keep throwing all kinds of nasty crap at your world from an outside or inside influence to keep it that way. And I've never been a fan of that. Ion stones, get your ion stones. That's funny. Free markets allow innovation. Innovation allows new spells. Absolutely. Hey, Flady, I told you I'd see you tomorrow, didn't I?
Anyway, get back to a few of those spoilers that you asked about.
Yes.
Here's one of the creatures you're going to be fighting. I can't see myself. That stick figure represents how big humans are.
Okay, that's crazy. Real quick before you go into it, what kind of genre is this game? Just so I can put myself into the.
Well, the main genre is supposed to be about the era of the Pirates of Man of here on Earth.
Mm-hmm.
Basically same type of dress and weaponry primarily, but there are there are 6 colored suns in the world, and beneath each colored sun there is a different level of technology. Beneath the green is nothing but tribal. Beneath red is a steam-based society. Beneath blue is feudal Japan. So technically it goes down by a level, but they have horse-driven mechanics. So wind-driven mechanics, sorry. So they have high technology. It's just wind-driven. There is the purple society, which is all mystic, but their mysticism, like where I believe magic cannot be static, they have a lot of high industrial stuff, just all magical powered. You have the second highest, which is yellow for all technology, but they are actually past mankind now in their technology. And then you have silver, which is the highest of all technology. You start getting into nanites, constructs, almost living AIs type people. But in general, you're supposed to be playing a pirate-like world. And what you guys are going to be...
I got a pirate flag right up there. I'm not going to... Hold on. I got my pirate flag right up there.
Nice.
I've had that flag for over half my life. And I don't want to hear any pirate jokes. Right there. Right, Hungar? I know you got one primed and ready.
I got a pirate flag that shows a pirate skull and crossbones, except it's the side of the skull with him drinking a bottle of rum going, "Time flies when you're having rum."
That's good. That's good. I haven't seen that one yet.
Anyway, you guys will be playing mostly, like I said, in the piratey part, but you'll be fishing for those big fish because they're used as steeds because they are big enough to be rowed.
Okay.
During the campaign, we will need a captain and a refractionist. Everything else can be from any of the other alignment OCs or character occupations I have. Sorry, I based a little bit of this off Palladium, and I'm used to Palladium, so I keep going back to reference. This is the ship I have made for you guys.
Yes, it is, isn't it? Okay. Gotcha.
You guys will be well afterwards. This is where we'll be striving after you guys go fishing and discover a few things. I don't want to give away too many on that, but discover a few things
Yeah,
that
yeah,
are on
please
and
don't.
around the island. You're supposed to go back and you'll be dealing with a pirate raid on your basically the town I'm letting you guys keep as your strong not your stronghold but your base of operation. It
Okay.
won't be under your control, but it'll be like you guys are welcome there type thing because the captain's been there for so long.
Right.
But it'll be under attack, and you guys will have to defend it from aboard your ship, which will also involve not just ship combat but some boarding combat as well.
I can do that.
And then if we have some enough times, a little bit of RP of what goes on in the town.
Okay. Okay. Are you a hardcore RP role player or uh or more of a traditional gamer?
I'm probably a bit of both because I love combat, but if I do nothing but combat, I'll get bored. I'm one of those who could spend the entire game, as long as it's only one game, doing nothing but combat. Same thing with RPing, as long as it's only one. Like if we do every other combat RP, I'd probably get bored with that after a while, but I could do that. But if we do nothing but RP or nothing but combat, I'll get bored. Period.
Gotcha. As most people know, I'm I play a lot of different kinds of games. I play war games, I play role playing games, I play board games. I play video games. For me, it's what does the group want out of this particular experience? If the group all they want to do is play combat, maybe we'll just play war games. Another group I play with, it's all about hardcore role playing. If that's the agreement I walk into the door with, so to speak, we're going to play role playing, heavy. None of the rules being broken and the immersion being ruined. Then cool, I'm there.
Oh yeah.
But I've been in other games where people don't really care about the role playing, and that's fine, and I'm not going to get all hung up on what I call the game because in the long run, when I look back on it, it's probably for me it's going to be the people that were there. How well did I like them and enjoy their company? How much do I miss them? When I don't get to see them, very often, kind of thing. As opposed to the game, I'm more of a people guy, obviously.
Yeah.
But it just so happens that when I hang out with my friends, don't get me wrong, there are occasions where I hang out with certain people and it has nothing to do with gaming whatsoever. But in a perfect world, it's gonna have the right grandma. It's gonna have the right mix of friends, fun and invariably good food. So since this is a live stream, I gotta ask you, what's your favorite food?
Ooh.
Right, folks? Right? Thought I was gonna forget. Perfect meal. What is it? No worries. We're not going to shame you if you say you like me. It's potato chips, and you could spend the rest of your life eating nothing but potato chips and be thoroughly happy.
No.
Yeah. That would be
perfect.
Let's guess, Grandma. I'm gonna guess. Fried chicken.
No, but it'd easily be one or two. It'd easily be 3 or 4 on that list because I'm having a hard time. I like, which isn't obvious for a lot of people, a certain type of pizza, which is the chicken ranch bacon that they have at Papa Murphy's. But the other one, which is equal as far as I'm concerned, is a German dish called Aldi-Frau. It's basically eggs, milk, and flour, and then baked, and that's it. But it is.
Isn't that bread?
What? Almost. It's very, very thick. You should actually look up Aldi-Frau. You'll be like, wow, they're just making a very thick squished bread. But
what do you mean barf? Barf on the curry or barf on what he just said, Mobius? And this is a good one: bacon wrapped filet mignon, twice baked potatoes. I really like that. I really like that, but for the same price of one filet mignon, I can get a rack of ribs, baby back. and that is probably my family's favorite meal. Although spaghetti and meatballs, my son really loves that. So it's maybe tied it, and I'm like, spaghetti and meatballs, really? You know, but
Well,
I,
I just found our first contradiction, Shadow. I hate
hmm.
ribs.
Oh, I'm
Because
sorry to
I
hear
don't
that.
like the, not because I don't like the taste. I am OCD about getting dirty.
Oh, whoa, 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 whoa. I eat my ribs with a knife and fork.
Oh, okay. Well,
If
around
you
here,
look,
you eat a ribs with knife and fork, you get looked at funny.
I would tell them to piss off. I'm eating my ribs my way. Um, uh, yeah, sorry. I got a beard. I don't want that. You know what I mean? I don't want to have to wash my face and maybe shower after I had a meal. When I make baby back ribs, I cook them to where they literally you can literally pull the bone out and it's clean.
I'd probably
Okay.
eat those just fine. Like I said, it's mostly the OCD about the whole getting dirty thing.
Yeah, I don't like that either. That's why I didn't like ribs growing up as a kid. That's weird. Because that's my family, they didn't know how to cook. And they would make them, and my old man, he had a mustache, so it's not a big deal. Yeah, he had an '80s cop mustache, and he was just like, not a problem. Give me those ribs. And I'm like, yeah, that's how the dog eats, Dad. That's how our dog eats. I don't. I'm but then I figured out how to make ribs, um, and I make them in the oven. Sorry, um,
Ah,
and so when they're done, that bone's just coming out like clean. I mean, there's no DNA on the surface of that bone. It's all going in me. Um, Good mac and cheese, Grandma. Yeah, yeah. The boy does love that. Hungar's pizza. I wouldn't. I'm certain Hungar hates pineapple on pizza. That's all I'm going to say about that. String bean casserole.
well, when it comes to pineapple on pizza, I'm one of those people who are both hated and loved by people who hate pineapple on their pizza because anybody who says pineapple straight belongs on pizza needs to be burned. Anybody who says it belongs on a Hawaiian pizza is fine with me. So I've had
um,
like oh, it's fine on like a pop on a pepperoni. It's like I had that. No, it's not. Pineapple doesn't taste. It only tastes good on one pizza. Period.
um, I can do both, but to be honest, my favorite pizza would be a Hawaiian pizza, which is
Mm.
usually pineapple and Canadian bacon or ham, depending on where you're at. But then I would add onions and red peppers, and trust me,
Ooh,
that is a really good combo. It's got everything. Uh,
I don't normally eat peppers, but I'd actually try that because peppers on a pizza usually aren't so bad.
Red
You don't usually
peppers,
taste
not
the
green.
pepper.
Green red peppers are sweet. Green peppers. If I eat green peppers, I'm gonna get not indigestion, but I'm gonna be south firing all night long. They just don't agree with
Uh,
me. I like the way they taste, but my stomach does not like the way they feel.
um,
Oh, okay.
uh,
Thank you, Grandma.
I
And
got a
yes,
similar issue
babies,
with
if you come
onions.
out to Cali, I will make you ribs, and then you will uh, never want them any other way. Trust me, they are a thing of beauty.
He might never leave.
Pardon? Oh
I said
yeah.
he might never
Well,
leave.
yeah. Well, I'm sure his family would miss him, and he'd eventually. But I'll send him off with the recipe. It's really simple. I have one little trick that I use that nobody ever else uses. Yes, Grandma. Lots of. I'm getting hungry. That's what it is. It's about my lunchtime, and you're gonna get used to it if you do a lot of live streams with folks. Eventually, we'll skirt around the religion and politics, depending on who's on the show, unless it's James and my son, in which case you're in for an earful. But eventually, every good conversation leads to food, and I can't think of a better way to get to know somebody, because there are some of those people out there that they have certain things, oh, you like pineapple on pizza? Oh, we can't be friends. Well, um, I'm holding a ShadowCon, and I am going to order like 20 Hawaiian pizzas just so everybody's like, because gamers, if the only thing
Oh
there
yeah.
is pineapple pizza, there will be no pineapple pizza at the end. They'll still hate it, but it'll be gone.
Oh
And
yeah.
then, I know that they'll go home, and every once in a while they'll be like, I could go for a Hawaiian pizza, but um, that's me just being silly. But yes, you
And they'll
are
never be
invited
able to
to
think. I
go
was
for it.
saying they'll never be able to think of Hawaiian pizza without thinking of you from that point on.
Hey, if you throw red peppers on it, I get it. A lot of people don't like onions, but believe me, red peppers are. Growing up as a kid, would have never tried them. But as you get older, you try new things. I'm going through it with my son. He's starting to try new things, and you might like it. You never know. I mean, how do you know until you try it? If you try it and you can't
Exactly.
swallow it, okay, fine. Take the napkin, spit it out. I'm not going to hold it against you. But if you won't at least try it, it's like a good, game. Your friend says, "Hey, I got this new game." No, no, I don't do westerns. How do you know till you try it? You might just like it. It might be your new favorite thing. You never know until you try it. Now, there's some things I will
Oh yeah.
definitely not recommend trying. Heroin's right there on the top of the list. Don't do heroin, folks. Drugs are bad, and it's expensive. Let's just face it. We're gamers. Most of us are, you know,
They're a
addicted
bad
to
thing
our
to spend
hobby.
their money on.
Yep, yep, yep. Uh, Grandma, we used to stop with the peach cobbler. Peach cobbler, oh my God, is my favorite of all the fruit pies. Vanilla ice cream. Forget about it. What am I missing? Someone said pie. Yes, there will be punch and pie. Spam sushi. I don't do sushi, but I would try it. Pie is my kryptonite. Every bad pie has kicked ass compared to a dry, nasty cake.
You need to
I'll
try
do
one of my
both.
cakes.
Yeah, the problem with cake is if you make it yourself, you won't have that problem. You buy a
Yeah.
cake, you don't know how long it's been there. I mean, you just don't. And an ice cream cake, I got one for my birthday last month. That was like almost the best gift of all the gifts I got. I hadn't had an ice cream cake since I was, knee high to a grasshopper, and it brought back a lot of fond memories. Now, chip beef on toast, Grandma. Seriously, you're just trying to be ornery, aren't you? I've seen chip beef on toast, and um, I would literally have to eat it blindfolded. I would try it, but I would literally, can I close my eyes? I don't want to see that. You know what it looks like? It's like going to an Indian restaurant.
I think Indian food looks better, actually.
Really? I went into, maybe it was just the one I went into, and it was, you could see the big metal dishes, and everything looked kind of the same, but it didn't look like something that I would want in me. More like something that was just left me. Um, Maybe it was just the
I wasn't.
restaurant.
I wasn't denying that. I was just saying. I think by comparison, it still looks better than chip beef.
Mm. Well, I like toast.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
Well,
hard to ruin toast.
toast is a lot like chocolate. It can cover a world of hurt.
Yeah, it's true. It's a good point. What is it? Is that Pilates? Oh, palettes. Okay, I was like, how do you know that word? You're from Canada. Definitely shift as we age, though there are some things I still cannot stand. Peas and corn, for instance. You despise both. I don't do peas. I'll do corn, but not corn on the cob anymore. Um, Apple pie with juicy and soft apple slices, a dash of cinnamon. Heck yeah. Apple pie liqueur. Uh, as a kid, I grew up on buttermilk and black coffee before I was 5, made with Everclear. Yeah, I don't do the 3 milk cake. No, I don't like it. If a cake doesn't have chocolate in it, I'm allergic to strawberries, and most 3 milk cakes have strawberries in them, so I can't do that. And you ban liver and onions. Yeah, I had, oh God. Every time someone mentions liver and onions, it reminds me of my first girlfriend. She was a couple years older than me. And when I went to her house the very first time after we, hooked up, um, that's what she had for breakfast. I didn't see it. I didn't smell it. I didn't taste it. She just told me she had liver and onions for breakfast. I think it was like some sort of test, like a shit test or something. And I'm like, why are you telling me this? I'm 14. You're 17. I seriously doubt I'm going to be spending the night, and you're going to be making me breakfast. So why are you telling me this? But yeah, I could never. I could never do. I don't do organs unless they're in a sausage, and then I'm not asking how the sausage was made.
I agree with that.
So what do you got planned for the weekend? Anything exciting?
Well, the weekend itself, no, but today I'm actually going to be playing in a game of Flighty.
Cool. Cool.
Well,
what kind of game?
I guess you could. We've been playing Rifts. He's working on a convention, convention game. One of those you play for 4 hours or so.
Oh, okay. Like a one shot, but with potential for afterwards.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not a big fan of one shots because I always want more.
Oh yeah.
I mean, unless it's a crappy game, and then I'm like, that was a good game, thanks. Glad it was a one shot. But this last year I've been invited to so many great games, and every one of them I learned something. Even if I learned that I never want to play that game again, which has happened. I'm not gonna lie. There've been a couple of games I'm like, yeah, I'm just not feeling it. And that's never to say that the game or the system is bad. I'm just in the mood for certain things, like food. So what are you in the mood for? If you could play your perfect campaign as a player or a DM, what would it be?
Perfect campaign. Well, as a DM, as of this moment, it would actually be able to run my game because I won't call it the perfect game, but it is definitely falls in the category of something I really want to play.
Mm-hmm.
And as for a player, I actually would really love to play in the Splicers from Palladium because
Oh, really?
Yeah, I know a lot of people don't like this, but I actually love the concept of a game because I've never got to play one, player or DM, where the game starts with "Abandon all hope, ye who enter my game." I've always wanted to play such a game.
You'll find that as you get older, and you've seen enough ugliness and stuff, you actually will long for the more fairy tale type games, even if it is a modern or science fiction-y game. But I've been there, and I really did enjoy the Splicers book. I liked its originality, and it had, that's the only word I can think of to describe it. It was original. They took all those ideas and made them their own, and you got to at least appreciate that. Maybe it's not your cup of tea. I don't like romance novels. I like romance in my novels and my games, but just a Lust in the Dust book, no. I've read a couple. Not my thing. I would rather do than read when it comes to that. And but they sell millions and millions, if not billions, of copies of those books all day long, every year. There's a whole bunch of people that like that. That doesn't make me wrong or them wrong. That's just somebody else's taste.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna, I mean,
really one of my favorite. Sorry.
Unless you're playing a game where you're doing some certain evil things, as the goal of the game, like kidnapping children for horrible purposes, then that's wrong. But most of the other stuff we, by and large, do as gamers, it's not wrong when it comes to the genre or the idea of the story or the world or what have you. It just it's at least right for the guy who created it or the gal who created it That's what, came out of their imagination. I'll give them the benefit of the doubt. I'll pop in their game if it sounds fun. And as Grandma said just a moment ago, variety in games is important. There's a reason why we all, jump from game to game. There's very few of us gamers that are still playing the one and only game they ever played and will ever advocate for from the beginning of their gaming career till the very end. If you are that guy, you've only played, let's say basic D&D or white box, and you think that's the best thing, and there's nothing else ever better will ever be better. I don't know what to tell you. I can't imagine that. That would be watching this, like watching that would be like watching I Love Lucy and only I Love Lucy anytime you watch TV, and never wanted to watch anything but that. That I just can't picture that.
No.
I'm not saying I Love Lucy watching is bad, but yeah. I'm just saying, the monotony and the boredom of it. Yes, Six Nations. Broadening our horizons is really what it's all about, because we're learning something. I'm learning all about TCG here and vice versa, and I'm also learning what a bunch of weirdos I hang out with on a regular basis. I love each and every one of you weirdos. I really can't wait to get the chance to meet all of you guys. I know that it's going to be hard and maybe impossible, but in there, I still want to do it at least once in my lifetime. That's why I'm going to do the ShadowCon somewhere in Texas next year. You guys are still going to have to pay to come, but it should be fun. And the only thing I don't look forward to is saying goodbye, which I have to do now. Because it's been a little bit over an hour. I really enjoyed hanging out with you, TCG. Hope you don't mind me calling you that, abbreviating it.
No, Hungar started that, actually.
Oh, okay. Well, it just makes it easier. I know RPG Grandma's name, but I'm calling her Grandma. If she doesn't like it, then she can yell at me later. She knows where to find me. I hope she does. I told her my Discord handle earlier. Yep, I'm longing for more hopeful games, but once in a while, a good scare with everyone knowing, oh yeah, we are dying is fun. Absolutely. Why be mundane? Keep them guessing. Right. Keep Lucy. I'll take Carol Burnett. Okay. Oh, you guys are being silly now. I hope all of you guys have a wonderful weekend. I hope you get at least one good game in, and if not, as DM James says, what are you doing with your life? Go out there and game. That's that's what we do. Unless you got some other cool hobby like hang gliding or something, and you're doing that this weekend, then I'm jealous. But I hope you guys all have a great weekend. And if you guys are not already subscribed, go and subscribe to the Crafting Gamer. Just like it says in the title, the Crafting Gamer. Go out there and give this guy some love, especially if you enjoyed hanging out with him like I did. I can't wait to see your next video. Hopefully YouTube will actually not make me have to go look for it, because lately they've been doing stuff that I don't like. Yes, Mage, Sean, good day, everybody. Cheers. Have a wonderful afternoon. Hang out just for a moment after the show, TCG, because when the show's over, you can do so and hang out for the after party. I want to ask him a couple of personal questions. Take care, everybody. We love you. Hit those buttons and happy trails.
See ya.